All right. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Focused, Free, and Fit. We've got a special guest today, Jake Tullis. And Jake, if you wouldn't mind, let's get started. For everybody who doesn't know who you are, why don't you tell us a little bit about you? And I did some research on you and what you're doing, but why don't you tell the listeners basically about your company and what you're doing right now before we get started?
Sure, yeah. One, thank you for having me. I really appreciate getting on here and talking to people about things that I'm passionate about. I could talk to a brick wall, so it's nice to be given a platform where people actually want to listen to me. That's nice. No, I am a software development expert. I've spent 10 years of my life. Probably longer than that, really. I was interested in tech since I was a little kid. I built my first PC when I was 13 or 14 and taught myself how to build websites, phone apps. I started a software development company in college, had multiple startups after that. Um, have been consulting small to large, size businesses in the past 5 years or so. And then more recently, I launched a hedge fund that specializes in digital assets, and it's a broad spectrum fund specific to crypto, 100%. And it really is the evolution of my understanding of technology and where I do believe the future of the internet is going. And it's all just kind of been married really well with how I invest and how I underwrite these assets to yield the most returns for my investors.
That's great. I'm really excited about today because, first of all, we appreciate you being on, but I'm really excited about today because I feel like there's so much confusion out
Oh, yeah.
there. There is so much happening in the tech space, and I'm dealing with it from my industry. I'm, a business coach, and I'm in real estate, and I see it in so many different ways. And so I'm really excited to have this conversation, and we'll hopefully cover it all, but I'd love to get into, today we talk about blockchain. I would like to talk about crypto. I'd like to talk about Web3, NFTs, maybe some AI. We can
Yeah.
that's a lot to talk about. So we won't be able to go deep on
Yeah.
everything, but it's really interesting to me. And I want everyone to understand a little better. You and I probably know more than most. I know nothing as close to what you know, but I do my research as far as all those subjects as much as I can without getting too deep. So I'm really
That's good.
excited to have you here to answer some questions. So first question though, you look like you're 17. How did you do all that stuff already, man? How old are you? What
I
the
know,
heck?
man. I know. I'm 29.
Okay.
I tech's this industry where results are all you need. I would honestly say it's closer to a blue collar career and path than a white collar. Although, you can get a degree and everything else, but I don't even have a degree in technology, and I have a finance degree that I didn't even use it till I started this hedge fund. Um, because I taught myself everything that I know, and there
Yep.
are 8-year-olds that are 10 times faster than me at what I do. So it really is kind of an equalizing career field. If anyone's interested in tech, like, you don't need more than $500 and an internet connection to learn how to do what I've done, because that's the total amount I've spent on my education in 10 years. Um, you can literally Google, YouTube, and Code Academy is a free resource. So, you can teach yourself if you're inclined or interested. Um, and basically, I'm just a hustler. I got tired of flipping $200 websites back in 2011, 2012. So I was like, how do I make more money building software? That's why I started a software development company. I found a partner who had, this is when I was 18. I had a partner that was 31. He had 10, offshore developers. He didn't have any American clients. I was good at selling, and we grew that. I exited it when I was 21 and rolled whatever I could into a bunch of different startups after that, and I've never really looked back. I guess it's just like me personally, whatever it is, I have a very hard time listening to other people. Like, don't let the cloud ceiling fool you. Like, I'm very stern and I'm very sure of who I am and what I want. And I've yet to meet a company or individual that can pay me what I believe I'm worth. And having that mindset makes it very difficult to integrate into society. I'm not much of a conformist, so I kind of had to figure it out. Like if my mom was on this podcast, she'd be like, "He was awful." I had
Yeah.
9
Yeah.
jobs,
Yeah.
got fired from them all inside of like a month for things that, most people wouldn't take personally. I would. Seemingly innocuous stuff like how I swept the floor would be enough to make me be like, "You know what? F you." I'll break that broom. And then that stuff like that. I don't know what that is,
Yeah.
but
I find
that's how
that,
you get started young. You can't get a job. And then it's like, I want money.
well, I think it's that. And I think some of it is that you just are, like you said, you have the confidence. And if you're willing to do the work, good for you. So you go out and do your thing. So let me ask you a question, because on the entrepreneurial part of this is you did have the guts and you did have the drive and the
Yeah.
confidence. So what made you, after you had that exit, when you say exit, I'm not sure if you sold it or you just sold your piece, but when you left it, how did you decide where you were going to put that money and what startups did you put it in, and did they all work, or did one work, or did all of them work? Because I have some background in that situation, in that space. So how did that work for you, and how have you evolved from then to where you are right now?
Well, one, I don't have the Midas touch. And you'll be shocked to hear that from a lot of entrepreneurs. I have many wealthy, successful people in my network, and I don't know one with less than 10 LLCs under their belt in their 40s. Like they just found something that worked and but they kept trying till they did. So that's some hope to all of you out there. The I exited the business by selling my shares back to the individual I was partnered with at the time. I did not like what he was doing and what was going on. I had profit, so I just wanted to leave. And I then started a dating app, which I've always been way too early, brother. I had a dating app called Scene, CEN. It was, and I'm not kidding. It was a full screen video like TikTok. The profile was just a 30, 60, or 90-second video that had to be updated every 90 days. And it was just them talking about themselves. And then you scrolled through videos until you liked someone, and then you would match and talk. Um, I had that back in 2015, so
Wow.
way too early.
Yeah. Visionary.
The Yeah, and we had the trademark for video dating for iPhone, and the investor I had, um, he did not understand what we were doing, man. I spent
Mm.
$50 on advertising in the Apple Store, and we got 3,000 downloads, and he thought that was really bad because that cost us $80 a month in server fees.
Wow.
I was like, do you not know, like, do you know how good
Scratching your head.
right? I'm like, come on, man. Like, I can't do any better. Like, that's as good as it gets.
That's
If we
just a
got
mismatch
50
of
grand,
understanding there. Yeah.
yeah, it's just a gap. And
Yeah.
I come from a place in Cincinnati, small town. The investors are very conservative, and they just wanted to play Silicon Valley, and I shouldn't have made the decisions I made with the money, I took and who I took it from. But that was a cool venture. It just didn't work out because I spent all the money. I spent the last bit getting that ad out, and it crushed. And he just pulled the plug. He didn't want to put any more money into it. And I lost the vigor for it. I'm more of a creator. I really like building. I like creating something from just up here and bring it into reality. It's hard for me to do the repetition of a business if it's not growing, or if I feel like I've kind of milked all of the juice out of it. In my mind, my creative energy, it's hard for me to keep going. So I just moved on to the next thing, which was a fitness on demand app, but it was a B2B play. So we licensed on demand technology to gyms, yoga studios, didn't really matter. And within about 5 minutes, you could turn on your personalized services as remote and meet users anywhere to offer any service. Really, it was very composable that way. So it could be like a user requesting yoga in the park with, with two
Gotcha.
friends, and then a gym could pick that up and send their best person. Or it could be on the other end, the gym could be offering $50 for a half an hour at home session. Equipment is brought to your home, or meet in the park and we'll do this, or meet in any general area. Maybe there's another gym that is closer to the client's residence. That was all kind of baked in. That was doing really well. And then COVID happened.
Hmm.
So, right. And we didn't know how long that would go on for at the time. And I just thought it was smarter to not burn what runway we had left and just get money back to whoever we could and move on from there. When I was raising money, I never really liked paying myself at all. I never touched a dollar personally, so I would consult just small to medium to large size businesses that I knew through my networking for all my other ventures. Hey, I do this, but also I'm quite talented at this, and that's how I've always just kept the lights on. And then after my fitness company, I went full fledged into consulting and have made a killing. And I really liked that work. That led me into the hedge fund. When you start consulting medium sized businesses, you start getting close with the stakeholders, which are business owners that are in the 8 to 9 figure range. And I've been passionate about crypto since 2017. I showed them my wallets, what I was doing, my strategy, and they were like, you can make a lot more money than consulting if you just did this for me and people like me. And that was an idea almost 2 years ago that has kind of snowballed into the best opportunity I've ever been able to generate for myself so far. It's very exciting.
That's really interesting. Thank you for sharing all that.
Yeah.
So, we're not giving financial advice today, but we'll probably get into the financial discussion and we'll talk about money. But this is all, you've always got to do your own research. So I'll say that to anybody listening. But I think it's always exciting to talk about all of this that we're going to get into today. Talk to me a little bit more, though, before we get into all that, about, so you had someone say, hey, you'd make a lot more money doing this for others. So when you say
Yeah.
doing this, explaining how people get started, is that anywhere from that to getting very advanced? Or was it, hey, here's what crypto is, and here's what crypto you should invest in, and here's how you invest in blockchain, and let me get you into Web3? Or was it just like real simple in the beginning? How did that evolve, like just when you got into this industry?
It was like, are you really doubling your money in a quarter? And then
Okay, gotcha.
they were like, why can you do that for me?
Proof of concept, just like, hey, I can do this for you. And then, yeah.
Yeah, like right now, our fund's fully up. You can go find us on Edgar. It's the SEC's filing. We have all of our exemptions filed. So I genuinely cannot give financial advice. That's part of the exemptions we have. But the user experience now is, I send you a DocuSign, you click 4 buttons, and then you can write a check, and then I will invest your money in crypto. I have full autonomy. It's a 5-year lockup, and last quarter we did 73.36%. That's audited or attested to. And this quarter, I haven't done an NAV yet, but we probably pulled 50 to 60, somewhere in there.
So
And I
just to make
believe,
sure I'm
oh,
just to make sure I'm clear. So instead of me going and buying my own crypto and getting a wallet and going on to Coinbase, I would basically say, hey, I'm going to give you my money. I might tell you what I want or you decide for me, but either way, here's my money. You invest it the best way you think, or do I get to also have the option to say, here's what I want to buy, will you do it for me, and you hold my wallet for at least 5 years?
it would be like when you subscribe to my fund, you are giving me whatever the amount is, and
Okay.
I have full autonomy over that money for the next 5 years.
I got you. So I'm
And
not
my
telling you,
goal,
you're saying, here's what I'm going to do.
yeah, you're joining a hedge fund,
Okay.
like
Okay.
that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's my hedge fund. It'd be like you writing a check to Bridgewater Capital
Yep.
for Ray Dalio, right? My personal brand is JT Knows Things. It's why I'm on this
Yeah.
podcast. It's why I post regularly. If someone wanted to invest with me, they would write a check to Bleeding Edge Capital, my fund. It's the same kind of concept.
So
Um,
either one, is there, I'm just getting straight to the chase so that people that are listening to this understand how this works, because maybe a lot of them don't. So um, would they, is there a minimum? And then if they give
yeah,
you this, how does that play out over the 5 years and that kind of thing? Do they get updates? Do they get, because a
yeah,
lot of the people
yeah.
that follow will be like, oh, I understand real estate and I understand syndications. And is it like that? Or if they have a financial
Okay.
planner, that kind of thing.
If you make that kind of content and people that listen to this know about real estate syndication, I would literally just think of it as exactly the same.
Okay.
But instead of limited partners pooling their funds and buying an apartment or a hotel, we're buying my spread of tokens or crypto assets that I actively manage. So
Gotcha.
that spread will, change throughout the markets in my research. But in general, it's like, hey, we're all pulling our money and we're buying a bunch of crypto. There will be side pocket opportunities where, like, maybe I want to set up a Bitcoin mining facility that you would get preferred interest in, and all this other stuff. I have a lot of little levers I can pull to optimize investors' returns. And then the minimum is 50,000, and you have to be accredited. One of the exemptions we hold, and if you're familiar with syndicating, is you have to have accredited investors. We are 506c. We cannot market to the public at all. So if anyone would be interested, you have to fill out a form, clarify that you are accredited, and I'll get into that definition in a second. And then we will also have to have zero shredded out if you would like to participate. And the definition of accredited is an individual who has 200,000 of gross annual income, or a combined or household income of 300,000 if you are married, or not an and, or $1 million of net worth outside of your primary residence. If you meet that criteria, you can engage in any private offering, which honestly is a much better way to invest if you are in that category. If you're putting all of your excess capital in a 401k IRA, you are really, really, really hurting yourself, because you can compound passively 20, 30% in real estate syndication with crazy retirement benefits like cash flow and an occasional massive check, or in other myriad of things. Like, I know people that do it with private jets, helicopters, yachts, with charters. There's a lot of private placements or private market opportunities where the shittiest yield is probably 20, 30%. I've seen
Yeah.
equity multipliers like mine. You asked what would happen in 5 years. I believe we could get 9 to 11 equity multiplier in 5 years. So if you put in 100, that would be $1 million or more. And that's because I've seen and done similar things for myself personally, and that's kind of why they were like, hey, you should start a fund if you actually know this much about this and you're that good at it. And that's
What
why we're growing this thing.
That's great. What are you sitting at right now, assets under management?
We have close to 30 committed. We are partnered with um I don't know if I can say it's hard with the podcast. I don't know if I
No,
can
that's
say
okay.
their
No,
names.
that's okay.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
okay.
So yeah. Current
Sorry.
money
Yeah.
cleared.
I was
Yeah,
just kind of
yeah,
giving people an idea.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, you're good. You're good. Yeah, we got 30 mil committed. That'll all be collected by the end of the year.
Gotcha.
Um, we're in the process of. There's a lot of stuff regulatorily that we have to get done. We got to get a QSIP. We have to have a registered investment advisor be our sponsor so we can get that. There's a lot of stuff that I am surprised as a tech guy. Even though I have a finance degree, I promise you they don't tell you about hedge funds in college. There's a lot that I did not expect that we're working through. But by the end of the year, we should have 30 million under management. We're an emerging fund. I'm an emerging manager, and this is an emerging industry.
Oh my gosh. You know,
Yeah.
speaking of, so, and I understand all the regulatory stuff you got to go through. It's, my brother-in-law is a financial planner, and I used to have some of my licenses to in that space. But that
Yeah,
was a long time
crazy.
ago.
Yeah.
Let's
It's
talk.
just as shitty as you left
Oh,
it.
it's
So,
it's it's
don't.
it's well, and
Yeah,
rightfully so, but
of course.
it's still a lot.
Yeah. Thanks, Bernie and
Yeah, yeah.
Sam
Well, it
Bankman-Fried.
was way before
No.
him. It was way before
Yeah,
him, but
yeah,
yeah.
that's true. That's true.
Uh,
Yeah.
so okay, let's start simple here for anybody who. So for someone like myself, I watch. Like, I had one of my most interesting podcasts I watched recently was between Peter Schiff and Raoul Paul. Do you know those two?
Of course, man. That's
Okay.
got to be fire. That's got to be
Oh,
a banger.
it
I
was
don't know where
great.
Peter sits on the crypto though. I really don't.
So it's
Ralph
really
Paul's a very aggressive adversary if they were on opposite ends. He's a
so they
very nice.
were. They were, and they were clearly opposite on the podcast. I would encourage you to watch it. Very interesting. I was like salivating. I couldn't wait to watch it because I like them both for
Good.
different reasons. But
Yep.
you got people out there like a Peter Schiff who are all about gold. And then you got a person out there like Raul who's like crypto, 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 right?
Yeah.
So, but before we get to that, because that's a question I have, and I want to get your take on it. But starting from the beginning, I think it'd be fair to walk people through. Let's just do a basic on crypto in general, because I just
Okay.
really find that people are having a tough time wrapping their minds around what is taking place, if they even know it all. So, you hear about digital currency, and I think that's probably a good place to start. So, can you just, at a basic level, explain crypto for people who aren't really, they think they understand, but they don't, or they just don't? How would you explain it?
I'm gonna have to pull a Ray Dalio and say that we need to go back in history to better understand the present and future. Um, so what you're, I guess, observing or hearing about, listening to, is a bunch of people like me that really are passionate about technology and are well versed in this stuff, and we like talking about it. And the reason is we understand things that, the listener may not. For example, the internet wasn't always the way it is now. It started off in 1954 as DARPANET, and it was essentially a government black ops, like, black budget. No one really talked about it. They were building this thing called a computer that could do math, which was like crazy back in the 50s, right? So, and they was as big as a two-story building. And this is what everyone would call Web 1.0. It was the building out of the internet that we use today. From 1954 to 1989, IBM, Oracle, all these companies were spun up, Microsoft, Apple, and it was in the process of building what we use today and probably take for granted: databases, servers, everything that needs to exist for us to be able to do what we're doing right now. And in 1989, you know, normal people could come on and build websites. That is the transition from being able to only read to now internet can read and write. You could get a domain, you could type something, and then anyone in the world could look at it. That was crazy. And what we're describing is the internet went from being able to only read to now it can write and read, which means that even this right here, all we're doing is writing and reading. This camera is reading its view, right? And it's writing it to a server, and then you're reading, your computer is reading it, and it's literally just that exchange. And all of this is for the management of what? Information, files with data. We all can understand that. A picture you take with your phone, whatever it is. Crypto, Web3, blockchain is the next evolution of the internet. So read, write, and now own. All of the protocols that were built are built in the right era. SMTP, HTTP, DNS. Those were all built by open source developers. People in their basement like this that have a lot of pride in their work that we all are using right now. If you're listening, you're using RSS. That's an open source protocol. We are using SMTP to send these files to and from each other's servers. We are using DNS to access all of the websites that we're using right now to record this live, right? Or record this, not maybe live, but in general, record it.
Mm-hmm.
We're
Yeah.
using all of these protocols that have $0 actually captured at the protocol layer, but have generated trillions of dollars of value. Like, what do you think the value is of being able to send messages from servers? Every email, every
Oh,
text, every photo, tens of trillions of dollars of value was generated from one protocol. In this own era, this is crypto, blockchain, the advent of Bitcoin brought in this next era of the internet. Blockchain is a method of data or database management, okay? And different crypto projects are different protocols like SMTP, HTTP, SMS, DNS. There's so many protocols, but they are just protocols that are for owning things online. So the internet will eventually be able to read, write, and now own. I know that's a very difficult thing to understand, but it's the natural evolution of the internet. And a protocol, for those who may not know, is just an instruction manual for computers. It's like a step one, do this, step two, do that, step three, do this, step four, do that. It's literally just an instruction manual that you can code right into the internet. And, it just does a specific function when someone interacts with it. Right.
What?
And yeah, we'll pause there.
Yeah.
I can
So,
talk,
okay.
I can labor
Um,
for a whole.
yeah, sure. Well, I love it because you're really going deeper than than even what most would even explain crypto. So, I think what can tell me if I'm right or wrong. For me, it's not. It doesn't really overwhelm me at the crypto level. Meaning, it's a little bit. I think for some people though, they say, okay, right now we have one currency. We have the U.S. For the most part in the United States, it's the U.S. dollar, right? And in a lot of other countries,
The
it's the world reserve. So, go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was going to say that's why I
You're going
said
to
what I
say,
said earlier. They're not currencies. They're technology. They're protocols. And owning or the byproduct of these protocols is ownership. If you
okay,
own something, you have inherent value, and people associate
that's true.
you know value to just money, but
That's true. Yes, for sure.
that's not the situation we're talking. That's not the actual
Agreed.
invention of blockchain.
Yeah, and I'm not saying the money is. Yes, I agree with you there. We're in agreement. But I think where people get confused is whatever that medium of exchange is, the dollar, right? They look at crypto and they go, "Well, I have this plethora of options." And Bitcoin's obviously the most popular. I think that's is media, before they even get to that it's digital and all this other complication, they're like, well, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Coin Dollar or whatever, I'm just throwing a name out there, whatever the names are. There's so many. And so do you think that confuses people? I mean, I think that's where a lot of people do get confused. So why don't you explain why there's so many and why there is, there's so many, and how would you start to decipher how you would pick one? Like Bitcoin's the most popular.
Yeah.
Ethereum is probably, I think, just from my limited research, would be the next one I would even think about going to. But after that, I'm like, it's the Wild West. It's already Wild West, but it gets really Wild West after those two.
Sure. um One, I would say stop even thinking of these as currencies. Just stop right there. You need to understand that these things are projects. The token, not the currency or the coin, the token that you're looking at on CoinMarketCap, like Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
Bitcoin is the token of the Bitcoin network. Ether is the token of the Ethereum network.
Okay.
SOL or Sol is the token of the Solana network. The reason why there are so many, these are public permissionless networks. Anyone in the world can copy and paste them. Anyone in the world, they're public,
Okay.
right? The code bases are public.
Gotcha.
So, like Dogecoin is a direct copy of Bitcoin. It has a halving cycle, it has everything. It's
Okay.
literally someone forked Bitcoin. That's what it's called, forking. It's a copy and paste. But they forked Bitcoin and put a picture of a dog on it and said, "Hey, we're Dogecoin," and it's ridiculous. And I know it's ridiculous, but really, like, it is. But what we're saying is what humans will always do. Like, there's no permissions. It's completely public. You're going to see every wonderful shade of the rainbow of people, personalities, ambitions, and desires in this industry that is completely unregulated,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're going to have the Sam Bankman-Frieds, the very dark, psychopathic flavor of human.
Yeah.
And then you're also going to have um, companies that, or projects really, that facilitate providing, let's just say, data to underprivileged people. And the data on that network that's what the token represents. And it's used to purchase data for minimal fees. People can sponsor fees. Like there's literally so many different ways, I guess, you could use this technology. I just want people to stop even thinking that these things are currencies. Bitcoin is a protocol or a network that is designed and built and coded to behave as a store of value. It being used as a medium of exchange is a pipe dream. That is not a good one. if you are betting on Bitcoin because you think we're all going to trade Satoshis, you're also betting that the world will go to shit and no state nation currency is welcome. The reason why Bitcoin will do very well is because state nations will do very poorly. Fiat systems are a failed system. And Bitcoin is something entirely out of government control. Doesn't matter where you live, you can buy Bitcoin. It's the first asset in the world like that. It really
Yeah.
is its own thing. But Ethereum is a protocol that is completely different. It
Yeah.
does a completely different thing than Bitcoin. And Ether and Bitcoin are thrown into the same category and
All
considered
the time.
currencies. Yeah, and they're not even the same thing. That'd be like me saying my domain name's the same as my email. Like, wait, what do you mean? Like, try sending an email to bleedingedgecapital.com with no Jake at.
Yeah.
Tell me how that goes. Like it makes no sense. So I'm very passionate about this. Like,
Yeah.
stop thinking they're currencies, guys. They're not. Um, they're just not.
How, how do you rationalize with, I shouldn't say rationalize, but it's rightfully so. I understand where people are coming from. They see these major swings in crypto. And it makes them seem like, and this goes back to the Peter Schiff, Raoul Paul conversation, that crypto has these major swings. And so it's really not, it's not backed by anything. And that's, I think, where people start to, which we could go straight to the dollar and have that conversation, but it's not backed by anything. So in crypto world, it makes it seem like the fact that people are just buying it and trying to make it as more people just want to get in and buy is the only reason they're making money. And how do you have that conversation with people and say that's not the case? I mean, I feel like with how much is going on, not know it takes so much for someone to learn what you know, okay?
Yeah.
And just
Yeah.
no one's going to do that. So the only option they really have is to go to someone like you with a track record. That's where track record comes in this game, in my opinion, to
Yeah.
say, okay, I need somebody who is doing this all the time, so I trust them. Because for me to go and take the time to learn what you know, because it's the only thing you do, it's just so overwhelming. And we're just talking crypto right now.
Right.
So that was kind of a
Yeah.
loaded question, but the big
I would.
swings and the
Yeah. Well, one, I would say it's going to look volatile if you're on a short time frame. But
sure.
I have a saying in my fund that everyone says religiously: when in doubt, zoom out. If you were to zoom out on the Bitcoin graph and put a logarithmic curve on it, you would see that it never leaves its lower bound ever. Has never done it. Where the S&P has done it 4 times.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning its standard deviation of change or okay, basically it has never dropped at it as significant relative to its average price. So let's say the S&P is at 5K all day. S&P has had a correction greater than like their moving average than Bitcoin has. That sounds
Mm-hmm.
crazy, but if I just overlaid those two charts, you would see that Bitcoin has held its bounds when S&P is not, 4 different times. Now, S&P's been around through different cycles and we
Mm-hmm.
can make arguments there, but in general, if you just zoom out, you're not finding a better performing asset class. I don't care. If you're worried about a month to month price movement on anything in crypto, you're just wrong. And it's hard for people to understand because people are used to you know equities and bonds. And then the second thing is it's really hard to rationalize with someone that is committed to not understanding. But if someone's mind's open to Bitcoin, blockchain, the network, everything else, the device that you're recording on, right? It's a computer of some kind. It has a GPU, it has a hard drive. Is that valuable? Like, what did you pay for it? Let's just start there.
Yeah. I
You
mean,
know,
I see
like,
value in it. It's a Mac,
right.
so yeah, I see value. I like
And it
Mac, so
has
yeah.
it has a function, right? Like you
Mm-hmm.
had to take your garbage dollars, trade it in to get this thing that you then plugged into the wall. So there's some value there, right? Bitcoin doesn't exist without that transaction. Bitcoin is a network that is ran by volunteers for profit that went out of their own pocket and invested in it. They
Mm-hmm.
went out and got 10, 20, 50, or 1 GPU. It doesn't matter. That's real American dollars or yuan or ruble. It doesn't matter. Anywhere in the world, it's a global network. So one, it's not backed by anything. You simply don't understand Linux and like how that runs on more devices than Microsoft, has a billion installs, and is open sourced. Like, go ahead and Google Linux headquarters. You'll laugh. Like, it's one guy's laptop. Like, you guys don't understand how the infrastructure of open source development works. So, you thinking that there's nothing backing it is completely false. There's probably $600 billion of hardware plugged into the wall right now, consuming an entire grid of value just to support the network. So, yeah, you're just wrong, you know? And then I would say it is more secure. Like, as a software professional, I'm telling everyone here that it is far more secure than anything you're using right now. If I wanted to hack Amazon, it would have to be a region,
Yeah.
but let's just say I pick North America. There's a single point of failure. If I get on one of those servers, I could access a lot. For you to access even one iota of byte data on Bitcoin, you would have to compromise 51% of the entire network, all inside of a block time, which changes every 15 seconds. So you would have to access over $300 billion of equipment across the globe, millions of devices, all at the same time, inside of 15 seconds. The percent chance of that is like 1, and it's like orders of magnitude. We're talking 10 to the 5,000th power that anyone can do it. If a supercomputer was working on that, it would take almost 4,000 years for it to get to it right now. So it's much safer. It's incredibly safe. So most of the time, my answer is going to be chalked up to just ignorance, which can be resolved with public information.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
why I post content. It's not like there's something magical up in
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
noggin. I've just
Well, you
spent
gotta,
the time,
but think
you know?
about how many people look. The average person doesn't have $1,000 in their account. So for them to go and understand, Bitcoin, it's just that's what I mean. So,
Yeah.
there's got to be, and there is none of that yet. I mean, they have to go research it, but for it to be commonplace. So that leads me to my next question before we move on from crypto, which is, where do you see? You're not a fortune teller, but it took, based on your explanation and what limited research I've done on the internet, 25 years for us to be at 97% adoption of the internet, right? I think that's where we sit today. 97 of the world's population, 97%, or maybe something like that.
Yeah.
It could be wrong, but close to that. It took 25 years. So would you say that we're in stage 1 of 10 for crypto, and what does it look like at the end here? Are we a 10-year situation, and what does that look like as far as adoption? I mean, I know they just started with legitimizing it with a fund and that kind of stuff, and people are talking about that, but how do you see this playing out with crypto?
I think AI has dramatically improved this timeline, but 10 years, I believe. I think we're basically in the mid to late 90s of internet adoption.
Okay.
If I were to compare, just based on market cap, number of companies, number of users, number of activity, just in general, I feel like we're right around there, 96, 97. I don't know. I don't think we're going to have a blow off top like the .com crash. Like we might have that kind of crash coming up. I don't know. I'm a cyclical long-term trader. I just pull profits when my price targets hit. Otherwise, I accumulate. And so I'm not that worried in general about any of that stuff. It just means I'm getting great stuff cheaper.
Sure.
But 10 years from now, I could see us going very fast. I could see us, you know, I could see the majority of things being on a ledger inside of 10 years. You have BlackRock already tokenizing a fund. You have Ernst& Young creating private enterprise level blockchains. That's another thing people don't understand. Like, blockchain is an idea. It's very much like the combustion engine. You know, whoever thought of the combustion engine very likely was just tired of stepping in horse shit every day and did not think 50 years later there'd be planes, mowers, AC, like combustion engine is everywhere. And
Hmm.
only more and more is being built on top of combustion engines. They're as small or as large as you can think, right? They do everything. You use them to do anything in your day-to-day life if you're in a, first world country. So it's the same thing with blockchain. It will eat the world because it is a better way to manage data. And that's what I want people to understand. If nothing else, blockchain is a method of data management and it could be used anywhere data isn't relevant, which is only getting increasingly more important. Like, I'm starting to see social issues around data, cancel
Oh,
culture and everything else. Like, people are starting to wake up and be like, that's kind of bad that they own all this data. They know so much about me, you know?
well, that's
Um,
too late now. I mean, you
way too
know,
late.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But that's where we agree. Well, agree again on some things, but I definitely think blockchain. That to me is where the real play is, in my opinion. It's all you can for at least the average person. I feel like blockchain is here to stay,
Yes.
no matter what.
Yeah, and there are some protocols that exist today that I think will be here for the next 50 years, pending force majeure. Yeah, I mean, like, I don't think Bitcoin's going anywhere. I don't think Ethereum's going anywhere. I don't think Solana's going. There are some that are so early to the game that have so much adoption, so much intrigue, that have survived multiple cycles now. Like, tell me an equity outside of like Amazon and Apple, and imagine that tech companies that can take an 80%, 90% dive on their stock and still pull out.
Yeah,
We've seen 98% pullbacks on some of these assets in their history, and they stick around because software is sticky and it has staying power. You even switching your email server after 5 years would probably want to eat a bullet. You don't want to do that.
yeah,
Like, software is
yeah,
sticky in a lot of
yeah.
ways. Developers like
No.
working with a specific stack. People like interacting with an interface a very specific way. If someone changed the home button on Facebook, I bet there'd be a million tweets about it. Like,
Yeah, I can see that. Do you think that I always think adoption? This is so new, and how
hmm,
most people fight change. What's
yes.
it going to take for blockchain and crypto to be adopted by the average person? I mean, is it just time? Is it another sector or a sector after sector, and finally we get to so many sectors it just starts to become like you're always going to have the early adopters like we have now in crypto, or the
Yeah.
people that already are funding your fund, right? But past that, how do we get it to be adopted by everybody where that's just not such this crazy far out situation for them?
What do you think drove the adoption of the internet?
It's a good question. Probably the fact that someone could do it faster, someone could do it better. They didn't have, partially what others had that they didn't have, but I think mostly about the dollar. How much money they could make with the productivity and that kind of a thing is where I would start with.
It's not a bad idea.
Time, saving time.
Time. It was Steve Jobs, brother.
Okay.
We need an iPhone moment. We need
Okay.
someone to create a product that fundamentally changes how we understand blockchain. Right now, the reason why there's only early adopters is because it's a technical subject. Do you know which database Facebook chooses to use? No, because you don't care. We
No.
don't need to know. We don't need to care, right?
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Like, people don't understand we're so high up in the stack that every token you're speculating on, well, not every, but the majority of the tokens out there are at that level. We're not talking about an app or an interface that users can download and it blows their mind, usually. Like, Solana is infrastructure, Ethereum is infrastructure. There are 4 to 5 layers before you even get an app like OpenSea that lets you buy NFTs, as an example.
Yeah.
So it's understanding where we're at and what you're even investing in. So, the
Sure.
majority of the stuff out there is all infra. What we need is someone to take everything this market has produced, be a visionary, and build something that is just so remarkable that people are using it without realizing it's blockchain and they're exchanging tokens. I
Gotcha. I think that's
personally,
that's a good point. That's a good point.
yeah, I personally believe it'll be in gaming. That's my bet. I think a game will come out that the average Joe will, because there's over a billion. There's actually 3 billion monthly active gamers in the world, which is crazy. It's almost half the population plays video games.
What's the
Um,
age breakdown though? The only
I
way I
don't
would
know
push
age
back on
breakdown.
that, the only way I'd push back on that is that the demographic's too young, and that wouldn't speed up the process. You'd have to there's a lot of adults too, but I feel like you'd have to have
I don't
something
know.
that was more tailored to the middle market at least. Or you think
Brother,
no?
those little kids, man. I mean, I've watched so many TikToks
I
of
have an
them
8-year-old.
stealing
I
their
get it.
parents' car just to buy Fortnite skins. You know how many
Uh,
V-Bucks that Fortnite moved at its peak? I mean,
yeah,
hundreds of millions of dollars a month of
yeah, I
just
know.
digital currency that just existed on their little siloed database. They just moved that shit. So,
Yeah,
like, I agree with you, but video games have a way of just pulling money out of users. And the difference is if V-Bucks were tokens, that could have been an iPhone moment. Like, imagine you get Fortnite, you do really well, you start season two. I don't know if you played. I'm a big gamer. It's how you get into all this shit,
yeah,
anyways.
yeah.
Season two, I had a black skin, like a Black Knight, because I was an OG, and those were going on Craigslist for 500 to $1,000 at the time. I don't know if they are now, but I would have to sell my entire account, which had awesome stats, a great KD. I'm very competitive, so like I didn't want to do that. But if Fortnite was the exact same game but built with Ethereum as the base infrastructure, that skin could have been an NFT that I sold on a secondary marketplace to anyone in the world. I could have converted whatever V-Bucks I had left after a transaction into dollars back. I could have just done that naturally if the interface was as clean as it was when it came out. I'm
Yeah.
saying when you go to the store to buy V-Bucks, you're not
Mm-hmm.
having to worry about exchange rates and token swaps and all the shit we deal
Yep.
with right now. I'm saying you just go in, swipe mommy and daddy's card, and now you have a skin. And then when you go back to the store, it has a sell button, and you're like, oh my God, I can sell it for how many V-Bucks? Oh, I
Yeah.
can get 4,000 V-Bucks for the skin I paid 200 V-Bucks for? That's crazy. And then they'll get that exchange. And
Yeah.
when they want to cash out of the game, they get awarded in V-Bucks for winning tournaments. They get when they're all said and done, those are ERC20 tokens they can exchange for US dollar
So
or any
essentially,
currency.
yeah. So essentially, you're just thinking, okay, someone charismatic, a good salesperson that can apply this to a large percentage of the population to where they create a need that the people didn't know that they actually needed. And so they're actually in it and using it to get what they want
I would say it a
at
little bit more
scale.
specifically. I think it is someone creative enough that makes a user experience so intuitive the user does not understand its blockchain, but they get to see the benefits of blockchain without
Gotcha.
knowing it's. So I mean, the
You
user
just said the
experience
key word, the benefits of blockchain without knowing it's blockchain. That's a great way to say it.
yes, when we have full adoption, no one will know what is doing it. And what I mean by
Yeah.
that is no one's going to argue with me if IMX is better than Ronin for a layer two gaming infra play. No one will even know what those are, but they will be massive things that game developers like Ubisoft build on top of, as an
Sure.
example. So, I mean, it's like, do you know what coding language and what stack Unreal Engine 5 is?
Heck
No.
no.
Right. But we still play the game. Like, people don't understand, like, someone like me, that's what we're talking about. When I'm talking
Mm-hmm.
about the differences between IMX and Ronin, we're talking about something that minimal to your life. Like, you've never even thought those questions that I'm pondering all day, because that's where I'm trying to invest my investors' money. That's my job. But,
Mm-hmm.
like, when we have full adoption, none of these tokens will matter outside of financial speculation, no different than like stocks and equities right now. If you're in that game, you know about it. But if I were walking down the street and someone was to talk about IBM, I don't know if more than 10 out of 100 would know what they even did.
Yeah.
You know, when they use IBM all day, every day, and they don't know because they're the ones building the servers that Amazon buys and stores all your shit in anyways. But they don't know
Sure.
that. They don't even know what a server rack is, yet alone, what IBM is. So,
Well, you can't expect them to either. I mean, this is moving so fast,
yeah.
which actually makes me think about the question I have, which is, so I think I'm not sure if people understand. Why don't we explain it in layman's terms, blockchain, real quick before we move on? So crypto, we talked about blockchain. How would you explain it to the layman who doesn't understand blockchain, like in a simple way?
That's a tough one. That's
Yeah,
a tough one. How would
that's
I
why I'm
mean?
not doing it.
Yeah, I mean, blockchain specifically, as with the way you said layman made me think like a sixth grader. So I'm trying to think of
Well,
a really good analogy.
because
Yeah,
that's most people. They don't, not because they're not smart, but because this is not their skill set and they're like, blockchain, what are we talking about? I just know it as a secure, go ahead, you tell me.
okay, I think I found it. All right.
All right.
You got blocks, and let's say, when you're building a structure with these blocks, you got a flat table. That flat table is the internet, okay? That's public. The government made it public and they support it since 1989. That's our playing ground. And basically the internet has been built like this. One block on top of the other.
Okay.
Silos, yeah?
Okay.
What I mean by that is if I log on to Amazon, right? Who has my login credentials?
You do.
Amazon.
Amazon
Amazon.
and you.
Well, if they don't like me, I don't have them,
Well, sure.
right? Right?
Yeah.
They're not mine. I mean, I
Yeah.
know them,
Well,
but they're not mine, right?
yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, so that on the database layer, Amazon owns everything from my
Hmm.
login. Now think about all the data that Amazon has after that login. Your orders
Okay.
placed,
Yeah.
where you've moved, all of your addresses, all the people you've
Credit
added in
card
contact.
numbers.
Right, right, right. And then when you buy a product, where's your money go? Amazon,
Hmm.
right? Where's the profit go? All the net proceeds of your purchase? Amazon.
Hmm.
Who has to buy more infrastructure and more servers to hold all your data? Amazon. Who owns all the servers? Amazon. You get the idea. The
Yep.
internet has been built. This structure is called monolithic, meaning one owner for the entire stack that is that website, Amazon. So if you think about Amazon, the interface, there's like 50 blocks below the website that you click on. That is the entirety of the Amazon stack. When I say stack, I'm literally talking about all the
Yep.
technical decisions they made and where all the data is stored and who owns it and manages it and all that stuff. Blockchain is the exact inverse of that. So it is owned by the community in its entirety. Like, instead of Jeff Bezos raising money and buying all the equipment to store your data, everyone around the world invests individually, plugs it into the wall, and then fractionally stores all of the data, manages all the data, saves all the data, and
Okay.
processes all the data. So it's like a community ran app instead of a monolithic app like Amazon in that way.
Okay. All
So the
right.
blocks would then be like Frank over here buys a $2,000 computer setup, plugs it in, gets paid in Bitcoin to store 1% of my transaction. But so does Bob, Jill, Jeff, Jen, James, blah, 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 blah. Then 100% of my data is stored across all these devices. And then all the value is then, all the profit and value is then spread across all of the tokens. And we all get to reap in those benefits for all of us contributing to the network.
Gotcha.
Does that
Okay.
make sense?
It does. I just wanted to have at least one solid explanation for people that are curious and don't understand. So, okay, now we're going to get a little bit off the reservation with some things that are taking place that most people probably haven't even heard about. And I would say that the two topics, everybody's heard of AI, so we can talk about that, I guess, if it pertains to these two topics. But most haven't heard about, probably if they have, it's been NFTs, but they don't know what they are. And then we have Web3. Web3 blows my mind. I don't know if it's just because it's just incomprehensible of what we're talking. Like, I just can't, it's out of my mind, the fact that we're talking about it. But someone got on stage at an event I was at a year ago, maybe even a little longer. And they said, we can help you license you to sell real estate in Web3. And I was like, what is happening right now? And that was like the beginning of me. And so I went back, I did a deep dive on Web3, and I'm like, what is going on right now?
Right.
So how does that fit in Web3? Because I know this is something you specialize in. So how does Web3 fit in? How do you see that playing a role? What is the update? Because I haven't heard anything about it since a year ago. What talk to me about Web3?
Yeah, so it goes back to my initial explanation on crypto, really. This is the evolution of the internet. The internet is getting an upgrade with new features and functions, which will allow ownership. Before I get into what the definition of that is, like, let's just zoom out to real estate real quick. How does anyone know you own what you claim you own in terms of real estate? Like, what is
A deed?
a deed, right? If I told you, or if I told everyone in your audience that I owned your home, how would they be able to verify that? Like, oh, Frank, you like my house you're staying at this week? Like, how could they validate that, right? They
They'd
could
have to
go,
look up the public record.
right. And then the sale is recorded on a database that is public,
Yep. Mm-hmm.
right? And every time that property exchanges hands, right, you know that's happened. So you can call me out on my bullshit saying I own Frank's home, right? Okay. What if you could do that for a picture you took? It doesn't really matter right now, but let's say I'm a photographer and I took a picture of wildebeests and I wanted to hang that up in hotels and charge $100 a frame because that's a legitimate business. They have a process right now, right? They have to go get it copywritten. They have to then get it registered on a database, right? And then it has to be searchable. Then they can license it to a reseller. They can do whatever they want. In both examples, and a myriad of others we could talk about, you have to understand two main things. One, something was created. Someone built a house, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then two, it had to be recorded when it was bought or sold. And it's that simple. Right now, we go back to my definition of the internet and those blocks, right?
Yep.
The county owns your purchase history, right? Because if they went down, no one would be able to confirm if you actually owned that property or not, unless you presented a paper in 2024, a piece of paper that said, hey, I own this thing, which if I got a hold of that paper, could entirely doctor, right? Ethereum automates literally every step of that process, and it produces a deed on anything generated on its platform till the ends of time, supported on that community network without a single point of failure. If your county got hit by a meteor and you lost your deed, I could take your home. Right? I mean, what else would you do?
Technically, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, without a record.
There's no proof, yeah.
No, I bought this back in 2000. Oh, you can't see the database? That's too bad, man. This is my house. Get out of there.
Yeah.
That's how it works, right? Ethereum would never go down. The liveness of it, you would have to take out, again, 51% of the network. There are hundreds of billions of devices from anywhere from India to Brazil to America to Russia to anywhere. I mean, it's crazy. Like, never goes down. It's encrypted entirely. And literally everything created on top of it gets a deed. And it's recorded on a ledger that is public and accessible called Etherscan. And anytime that thing that was generated, whatever it is, an NFT, It could be a transaction. It could be the deed to your home. It could be a real estate it could be anything. It
Yeah.
gets enshrined on the ledger and stored to the ends of time, completely encrypted and untamperable. So when I make a picture of a monkey and I say there's only 10,000 of them, there is
Hmm.
actually only 10,000 of them. That's it. That's
Hmm.
all that'll ever
Yeah.
be. If someone takes a screenshot of it, there's no deed. That'd be like me taking a picture of your home and saying I owned it.
Sure.
Or taking a picture of that picture that I described, the wildebeest. I just snap a photo of it, crop it, and say that's my picture. That's
Hmm.
not true. Where's the copyright?
I understand the purpose of what you're talking about, and I like it. I like it, and I agree with it. Where I start to get, and maybe it's just early, but when someone says, "Hey," because I know people that bought property in Web3, and that's where I go, and I'm like, "Holy cow!" Are they just early and in 100 years it might be the most valuable thing out there? Or is it like, I just think about how it's so early. I can't even imagine, like, most people don't even talk. I mean, I don't know. This is your space. So I'm just
Yeah.
curious because people listening to this don't know that that's happening or happened. People bought property in Web3 that doesn't, I mean, it exists, but it doesn't exist in 99% of us.
It's so hard to conceptualize, I get it, because people think they actually own things they don't own.
Yes.
You know,
And it's
like
changing the concept of that is the tough part.
that's the switch you need to make. Like
Yes.
you think you own the 10,000 photos on your iPhone that are of your family and your kids' treasured moments, the videos, they're not yours. Like
Yeah.
you don't own 1 byte of that data. I don't care where you put it. Even if you put it in Dropbox, guess what? You don't own it. The only way you own it is if it's in a thumb drive in your pocket and it's nowhere else.
Yeah.
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 That's the only way you actually own things you think you own. So
Yeah.
once you understand that you have zero control over your data footprint, two things should happen. One, you're angry. You're like, that's messed up, I would think.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
It's true.
you
It is. It
know,
is
like,
messed up. It's
yeah, it's
messed up.
messed up, man. I don't like it. That's why I'm doing
Yeah.
this. That's why I have this fucking basement. I'm obsessed
Yeah.
with I'm very
Yeah.
passionate about how shitty it is. And then two, ideally, you start learning about what the heck is Ethereum or Bitcoin or any of this other stuff, because really, when you're that angry, you're like, what are some other options? How can I actually own my identity online? You know, because that gets stolen every day. There's no way to verify my identity online. But
Yeah.
like wallets on a blockchain solve all of those problems.
Sure.
You know, at a certain point, you just have to trust someone like me if you don't get technology. But like, if this information's public, you can go find it. You can go see examples of it. When that gentleman that you're referring to bought that parcel of land, all he did was buy pixels
Hmm.
in a world
Yes.
that is completely isolated. Like they're not going to make more pixels. Like it's capped. And he probably bought a 2x2, 4x4, I don't know. He bought a space and you can build whatever you want on that space. The only way that is worth something is if more users come on and you build something that, I know it sounds crazy, but that is monetizable. Like, and the hard thing, it's just the ownership part. Like, what's the difference between a metaverse and I don't know, World of Warcraft? Those are both worlds, right? They're both digital worlds. I can make a creature. I can walk around in both. I can make them look crazy. I can do whatever, right?
Hmm.
The difference is ownership. That's it. Like Blizzard owns every pixel on that screen. I could invest 100 years of my life into World of Warcraft and they could just like delete my account and I could never log in again if they didn't like what I said online or anything else. And in the metaverse, as long as I don't lose my keys, everything that I generate, like if I log in and chop down trees and make wood and build, a little hut and I progress in this world, I own everything. No one owns that. That's mine. And if you're just playing a game, it doesn't really matter. But if you're, let's say, building something in a world like Decentraland where anyone can go around and use their wallet to buy things. Like you go into a store and you buy a skin for your avatar instead of using V-Bucks in Fortnite or gold pieces in World of Warcraft, you're using mana, which is a token that can be exchanged for US dollar. Like it has real world value tied to it, and or any state nation currency. I'm in America, so I keep forgetting to be more agnostic. But in general, you can just play the game like you were for months. No one can take away your progress. And when you're done, you could cash out thousands of dollars. There were people in the peak of the bull run when mana was trading at $4 or $5. People in Bangladesh were like making bank. Their job maybe pays $10 a month, like US dollar equivalent a month. They were making
Mm-hmm.
12, $15 an hour playing a game. Like, it's if you're in a civilized world, it's hard to imagine the scope of this movement. But I assure you, like if you're in Africa or if you're aware of what's going on over there, there are so many people plagued by hyperinflation that Bitcoin's their only answer. They get paid 10,000 Nari. That Nigeria banned crypto because of this problem. They want to control their people. They're inflating at 10 to 20% a month. If you got paid 10,000 Nari, you would get paid 15,000 Nari next month, and it's still the same. Like, it's that crazy. Like, they're adjusting wages by the month at the moment. And
Sounds like another country where the value of the currency is deflating.
yeah, man, and like crypto assets are a great place for people in that situation. You're going to preserve your wealth a lot better. Um, but in
It,
general, the point to drive home is ownership, 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 ownership. Your
okay.
wallet will own everything that you accumulate, build, invest in, or just
And
play
there's
the
a track
tournament.
record.
And there's a track record. Every tree you farm, you get wood that can be turned into mana at the auction house. That trade, all of that stuff, every strike, it's all recorded.
Yeah.
You know that person mined that wood, farmed that wood. You know they put it on the auction house. Someone else bought it, built a little house. They got paid in mana. You can see that person then leave the world and sell that mana for dollars. Like, it's all, yeah. I mean, it's who owns it, and it's all public record. No different than the purchase and sale of homes. And I would even argue there's far more data on chain about the activity of a user than someone building a house. Like, there is so much real estate fraud because it's not on chain, in my opinion, that it's really anyone's game. Like, I don't know what material was used to build the house I just bought. I can't rip up the walls without causing damage. But if, let's say, the entire project was on Ethereum and every order was published, I would know exactly what they used to build that house. I would know
Mm-hmm.
exactly who bought it. I would know how much they paid for it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to. I just feel like I could labor on forever, but if people don't want to understand it, it's difficult to get them
Well,
to
I
over
don't know.
time.
I don't think it's that they don't want to know. I just don't think they. I think it's more about the effort. I think it's more about the effort because people go to work all day, they come home, they want to relax a little bit and then go to sleep and get up and do the same thing or spend their weekend doing whatever, the beach or just
Yeah,
doing nothing, having some beers or so they're not going to go, very few people will go and be like, "Okay, I'm going down a rabbit hole on Ethereum. I'm going down a rabbit hole on crypto" because it's work. It's all work to
it's
understand
yeah,
to make good decisions. It's not easy. I always say choose your hard to my clients. I'm like, "Look,
correct.
being poor is hard and being successful is hard. Choose your hard."
Yep,
Right? It's the same thing. So that's what I think it is with people.
100%.
Okay. So I think we've done a pretty good job of walking through this a little bit, but let's finish up around AI.
Okay.
It's moving rapid pace.
Yeah,
I can only talk about it from my view, which is the coaching and real estate and that type of thing. So video editing, you know, that type of aspect. But
yeah,
I see it and I use it. And ChatGPT, right? ChatGPT 4. So everyone's coming out with their form of AI. Where do you see this integrating with the crypto and the blockchain? And because it's just moving so fast that I don't think anyone can comprehend how fast it's moving. Then you talk about medical, and it's just so many breakthroughs and jobs that are being eliminated. Um, I'm just curious how you see AI playing a role with crypto, with blockchain, with Web3, and will that make it go faster? Or no, it really won't. It's on its own path already, and it's just what it is with regards to speed.
I believe AI was a blessing for my portfolio's worth. So there's a few issues with AI. One of them is transparency. Like, how do you know me right now without touching me that this isn't an avatar that I am typing to?
Yeah,
That's a genuine question. Like that could be me.
sure.
I'm smart enough to figure that out. Like I could be in
Well,
Bali right now and I'm just typing to you because I feel antisocial today. That's
Well,
or
hey, they
AI.
got programs like HeyGen that'll do an avatar, right? Or so yeah, you're right. That's absolutely a possibility. And I think that along with the fact that I think 30% of social on Instagram is going to be AI produced this year. So like that's real.
Yeah, that problem is great for blockchain because there's no other way to without a shred of doubt, right? That it is genuine.
That's
So,
interesting. I didn't
like,
look at it from that point.
yeah, if my wallet attests or signs automatically when I post, you can verify that I, Jake, am posting this on behalf of this language model that I picked up at this website. And that could all be automated. Like I said, an iPhone moment. It doesn't really matter what infrastructure is used to build that app or that plugin that link or that Instagram might use or LinkedIn might buy. I don't know. It doesn't matter, is my point. That problem is only solvable, exclusively solvable through blockchain. Because if it was a Web 2 kind of thing where it's that monolithic single point of
Yep.
failure, that means we have to trust a third party. And fraud could be very prevalent. And we've seen that throughout history. But if it was a decentralized, no single owner ledger that said, hey, this photo was posted by this user, they used this language model at this day and time at this website, and it's just a little like a check mark in the top right of our content that we're watching. And we look for
Hmm.
that check mark if it was there or not there. That would tell us AI or no AI. And if you click that check mark, it could zoom into the details of how it was generated and who posted it. Something that simple.
Sure.
All of those problems would be solved with something that simple. You could not do that with a Web 2 application. The way monolithic structures are built, the speed of AI, not possible because it could all be tampered with. It could all be modified. Shit, if a hacker got in, they could make anything seem real. If they could put the check mark
Hmm.
unknowingly onto something that is fake, like you just couldn't trust it. Another thing is there's really no way of truly knowing which language model generated that output without a user volunteering that information. Where if language models were ran through a blockchain of some kind, you would be able to track everything generated by a language model. You'd be able to track where it was posted, how many times it was shared, which account shared it. You could do things that Web 2 cannot do. So, um, all the problems AI will create, the magic pill is blockchain. I don't know which solution will solve those problems, and they've not been built yet, to my knowledge. They're using AI to do different things, which is there's a lot of exciting projects with this overlap. But I mean, from a macro sense, there's a lot of problems that
Hmm.
blockchain solves with AI. So I think they go hand in hand, and they benefit one another greatly. Finally,
That's
I would say
interesting.
you could build a model to break into a single point of failure. Eventually, there's going to be inherent security risks due to the power of these computers, where blockchain is way too difficult. The only compromise or issue blockchain has is quantum computing. You cannot build an AI that can break it. But when quantum computing comes about, that is different. Um, but we'll also have quantum firewalls. So, I mean,
I was just gonna say, yeah, that would
you
probably
know,
enhance. That would evolve too.
exactly. So, those are the three major things that like you cannot dispute are solved by blockchain. If AI wasn't around, I think adoption would be slower but inevitable. I just think we're going to see quicker adoption because these problems are going to be real. The first politician that goes to jail wrongfully or something major happens based on deep fakes and China attacking us through that way or some kind of intermittent, like, they have TikTok. There's over 100 million users of TikTok in America. There's a Chinese company, which is a communist country, that owns TikTok. So the government owns TikTok. Chinese government owns TikTok. They could just release videos of Trump like doing something, like they could just push it out on their platform. And if we have no way of knowing it's real or not, like that kind of thing, once we unpack
Yeah.
it and discover that it was fake, that could spur so many initiatives to
Hmm.
solve this problem or anything close to that. All we need is
Yeah.
we need a brown swan event about how bad AI is, and we could see
Yep.
real world one example of that. And blockchain is going to it's going to be gasoline on fire because there's no other solution for that outside of trusting a third party, which is
Hmm.
who fucked you over in the brown swan
That's
event to
right.
begin with. So it's like
That's right.
there's no other
Yeah.
no other
There's no other way.
solution. Yeah,
Yeah.
and
No, it's a good point.
yeah, they met
It's a
they're
good point.
married. Their futures are married.
So, okay, let's wrap it up with if I was the average person out there and didn't know anything about crypto or wallets, my advice would be, go watch some YouTube videos on different types of wallets and the difference between what is it, cold storage and something else? What is it, cold wallet and what's the other one?
Cold, hot, and warm, baby.
Cold, hot, and warm. That's what I
Like your
thought.
sink faucet.
So yeah, okay. So I think that would be where I'd tell people to start to understand how they store it, and then what would you tell them? Would you give them different advice, and then how would you tell them what to buy? Would you tell them to invest in crypto and how to start? How would you tell them to start?
I would say, unless you're a software professional, not a financial professional, software professional. Trust me, I've met a lot of financial professionals that have no idea what this stuff is.
Oh yeah,
These are
sure.
these are software products and they're in their startup phase. So unless you
Yep.
have a significant skill in underwriting these technologies like myself, I highly recommend you get minimal exposure. I think 5 to 10%, 10 being aggressive, 5 being conservative, is a very respectable number for your entire portfolio, your entire net worth. Um, because literally that small of an investment could outperform the other stuff you got going on in long enough time horizons.
And if it doesn't, it's only 5%.
Right.
Yeah,
Like you're going to
that's good
lose,
advice.
you're going to lose 5% on a flyer thinking you're the next Warren Buffett. Um,
Yeah.
so in general, take on that risk, but 10,000 or whatever you're working with. Let's say you have $1 million portfolio in your 50s, you put, was that 50 grand in, right? Um, you know, that in 10 years could be like 400,000 bucks,
Mm-hmm.
500,000 bucks. So like, yeah, could be more depending on what you bought. And then so it's worth seriously taking some time and understanding. And then secondly, I would say, unless again you have a serious skill set, I would avoid anything that's not in the top 100 on CoinMarketCap. Go to coinmarketcap.com, go through the top 100 by market cap projects, read every website, Google every word you don't understand. If you spend 50 to 100 hours this year doing that, like casually 30 minutes here, an hour there, you will be literally ahead of 99% of this market. This is the most ignorant market that exists. It is so easy to get an edge. Like, I'm not special. I'm just playing against a bunch of dumbos, you know?
Mm-hmm.
The big boys just started playing 3 months ago.
Yep.
It's been like this is a young, ignorant market, and that's how you make money if no one's told you. You make money in markets by knowing more than the other guy, and it's that simple. So when the average user of this technology has 0 minutes of research outside of tweets that that people get paid to post, you're golden. Just do that. Go through the top 100, top 50, top 25, whatever piece is reasonable for your work schedule, and Google words you don't understand. reach out to JT Knows Things on any platform. I will help you understand these things. I post 30 times a week educating people like yourself on this technology. Um, and find resources you can trust, like Raoul Paul, like Michael Saylor, even Elon
He
Musk.
just went big time into Bitcoin. He's already was big time, but he tripled down.
He's got over 200,000 Bitcoins. So yeah, he's a G, man. I love Michael Saylor. And if you really don't want to figure out any of that stuff, you could just go buy MicroStrategy through your brokerage account. That's basically
Yeah,
like
right.
buying Bitcoin now. Or Apple, or a myriad of almost 50 companies that use Bitcoin as a method of enhancing their balance sheet because it's that much better than dollars, which is a whole nother 2-hour podcast we could record. But,
I have a feeling. I have a
yeah,
feeling there's gonna be sequels to this podcast right here.
yeah, man.
We didn't even get into NFTs and we didn't get into some other things, but
I go
there's just
deep.
so much, and
I have a lot of
yeah, it's
depth.
so much.
I get paid. You get paid for depth in this world. Like a jack of all trades. You're a mile wide, inch deep. No one's going to pay you. I mean, you might be an interesting character to be around. You're not going to get
Yeah,
money. You get paid on your
yeah,
depth. You know,
that's
and
right.
I have a lot
That's
of
true.
depth. So you can tap this well all day. We won't run out of
Yeah,
content.
yeah. Well, I appreciate it, and I hope
Yeah.
everybody learned a little bit today. And there's going to be a lot to talk about in the future. I think this is going to be an interesting year. Where Bitcoin is and where it might be going, and a lot of the changes that are taking place. So there's going to be a lot to talk about. Where can people find you? Let's give them any place they can find you, or where you'd like them to find you if they
Yeah.
want to.
JT Knows Things, no spaces, any platform. We're out there.
Okay.
TikTok,
JT knows
Instagram,
things.
YouTube, LinkedIn, doesn't matter. My biggest following's on LinkedIn, but in general, I'm active everywhere. I got a team that engages with you guys, and I'll reach out personally. Also, I make content with followers, so if you're comfortable with the camera, I love getting on camera and educating on a question if I think it could be long enough for a YouTube video. So I'm just very engaged. I'm a small influencer. I only have about 40,000 followers, and I try to really develop a relationship with followers. So just reach out there. I love engaging. I'm very passionate about this topic. So
It shows, man. I'm happy for you for all the success, and I wish you the best in the future here. I know you're going to do great, and I appreciate your time, and I know everybody else learned a lot. So thank you, and I look forward to having part 2 in the future.
let's do it,
So
man. Yeah, all the same right back at you, Frank. I really appreciate your time here today, and I've enjoyed it. Steadfast,
good deal,
everybody.
man.
Steadfast.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right. Well, we'll catch everybody on the next one, and thanks, Jake. I appreciate it, buddy.
See you guys.
All right. Bye.